Hello friends, I am Sanjay Kadam and welcome to Scholars Point. Friends, today we will study about different types of immunities. As we know, immunity is our body's disease resistance ability or capacity by which body counteract with different microbes which are invading our body. There are two main types of immunities. First, innate or non-specific immunity or natural immunity, and second type is acquired immunity or adaptive or specific immunity. But out of these two, first of all we will study about the innate immunity. Innate immunity present from birth. When any organism, either it may be invertebrate or vertebrate, when organism taking birth or it comes out from the eggs, etc., then since birth the disease resistance capacity present in the body of every vertebrate or invertebrate in the form of barriers, different barriers or defense lines. Okay, then there are two defense lines. First defense line is called external defense and second defense line is called internal defense. Okay, then we will study about the external defense, means first line of defense of innate immunity. Here there are two types of barriers included in external defense, means first line of defense. Anatomical barriers. As we know, innate immunity is in the form of barriers. That is why first barrier is anatomical, means physical barrier. Here two components are involved. Skin, our skin. As we know, skin is the largest organ of body. As it looks smooth, delicate but not. It is very stronger, harder for microbes, for the pathogens, germs. They can't penetrate to our skin easily because the makeup of the skin is very complex. That is why they are not able to produce infection, to produce harm to skin easily. Okay, skin have outer layer, that is epidermis, and this is the dermis. This one is epidermis, upper epidermis. And because of the complex nature of the skin, pathogens are unable to attack over the skin. Here, as we know, when any microorganism coming in contact with the epidermis of the skin, then epidermis of the skin always removing some dead cells, and along with dead cells the microbe cast out, removed out from the outer surface of skin easily. By washing, cleaning also microbes are removed. Okay, in this way skin is not very easy to penetrate for the point of view of microbes. Okay, now second component is a mucous membrane. Our digestive system, respiratory system, reproductive system, excretory systems, their inner lining is having a mucous membrane having a secretion, slippery, slimy secretion called mucus, and because of which if any microbe or pathogen entering inside the body, suppose entering into our respiratory tract, digestive tract or reproductive tract, then this mucus prevents its entry. Microbes are trapped into mucus and that is why made inactive or immobilized, and in this way mucous membrane helps to greater extent. Then now second barrier, physiological barrier, or it is also called chemical barrier. There are different components: saliva, tears, sweat, sebum, acid, pH and body temperature. Out of that, first saliva. Saliva, which is formed by the salivary glands inside the mouth cavity, and saliva contains immunoglobulin A, means it is an antibody, and that is why our surface, internal surface of the mouth cavity and then esophagus, stomach, etc., it is protected because of these antibodies. They attacks over the microbes, and that is why saliva helps us to greater extent. Then tears. From our eyes, tears comes out. Tears have a lysozymes, and lysozyme, it means lyso means lysis, zyme means enzyme. The enzyme which allows breakdown, lysis of microbes. And in this way, if microbes entering into eyes, they get destroyed, degraded by action of lysozymes. Then sweat and sebum are the two products of our skin glands located in the dermis of the skin, and they secrete sweat and sebum. Sweat gland secreting sweat and sebaceous gland secreting sebum, which are slightly acidic in nature. And because of the acidic nature, some bacteria are sensitive to acidic nature of these substances, and that is why they either inactivated or get killed. Then acid, that is HCl, form inside the stomach, which kills or makes inactive most of the microbes coming through food and water inside the digestive tract. Then pH. Our body have three types of substances: acidic substances, neutral and basic substances. That is why some bacteria or pathogens are sensitive to acidic conditions and some sensitive to basic condition, alkaline conditions. And that is why this pH change inside the body is helpful to encounter the microbes. And the last one is body temperature. Our body temperature is around 37 degree centigrade, and that is not comfortable for microbes or pathogens which are entered inside the body. And in this way, sometimes after entry, fever develops, and fever means rise in temperature, and this rise in temperature is become non-tolerable for pathogens. Okay, in this way, these are some physiological barriers. Then we shift towards the internal defense, means second line of defense. Here, first, phagocytic barriers includes neutrophils, monocyte, both are the blood cells, and macrophages. These are the histiocytes found in tissues. For example, in liver, there are Kupffer cells. They have phagocytic action. What is meant by phagocytic action? Suppose these are the phagocytes, either neutrophil, monocytes or macrophages, and when they come in contact with pathogen, either bacteria or virus, then they engulf, they swallow microbe inside the cell, and in this way, this microbe entering into the cell, now these phagocytes degrade them, destroy them by making specific chemicals. Okay, in this way, if the pathogen cross first line of defense and then entering inside the body, then there is a second line of defense in the form of phagocytic and inflammatory barrier. Then phagocytic barrier allows phagocytosis of the pathogens and so as to kill them and control them. Okay. In this way, neutrophils and monocytes are blood cells which destroying the pathogens. Similarly, the histiocytes, macrophages, Kupffer cells also destroying the microbes present in the body if they entered. Then the second barrier in second line of defense, inflammatory barrier. This inflammatory barrier is in the form of mast cells or our basophils present in the blood. Mast cells and basophils producing two substances. One is histamine and another is prostaglandins. Then what is their function? They brings about inflammation. Both histamine and prostaglandins produced by mast cells and basophils brings about inflammation. What is meant by inflammation? Inflammation means swelling, reddening, then pain and heat develops. At the site of microbial attack or injury, whenever any injury occurs on the body surface, on the skin, or attack occurs, at that place inflammation occurs, means swelling, reddening, pain and heat is developed because of the impact of histamine and prostaglandin. Actually, in that part there are some blood vessels. Suppose it is a blood vessel. Because of histamine, this dilation of blood vessel occurs, and the part where infection occurred, injury occurred, there dilation of blood vessel occur. This is the blood vessel, shows dilation, and because of the dilation, means its diameter increases. Because of that, fluid, vascular fluid comes out. More vascular fluid comes out, released out. It creates swelling. Then along with this fluid, some proteins removed out, which are antibacterial or antimicrobial in action. The place where the pathogens, now it is the place of injury where inflammation occurs. Then these are, suppose, some pathogens. These antimicrobial proteins coming out from the blood vessels, they entangled with pathogens, microbes, and in this way the pathogens get inactivated or killed, and in this way encountering of pathogens occurs by these specific proteins due to inflammatory action carried out here at the place of injury or infection. Okay, this is all about inflammation. But the site of inflammation, if we putting our hand, we feel heat there as compared to normal body surface. Okay, and that area become painful. Okay, and in this way, this is the second part, second barrier in second line of defense. Now we will study about second type of immunity, that is called acquired immunity, adaptive immunity or specific immunity. It is the characteristic feature of vertebrates only. It is absent in invertebrates. Vertebrates means the animals which have a vertebral column. Okay, and this group includes in higher chordates. Human beings are also vertebrates. This immunity develops after infection. If any individual, any vertebrate suffering from any type of infection, then the acquired immunity develops inside. That is why it is called acquired or adaptive. It is a one type of adaptation, and it is considered as third line of defense. It is made up of two components, B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte. Both are the blood cells. Means the third line of defense carried out by blood cells, that is WBCs. a small WBCs called lymphocytes have a two types, B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte. B lymphocytes performing function of antibody production, while T lymphocytes killing bacteria directly or helping to B lymphocyte. First of all, we learn about T lymphocytes. T lymphocytes have four subtypes. First is helper T cells, second killer T cells, third suppressor T cells, and last memory T cells. Helper T cells helps B cells, B lymphocytes. Means helper T cells stimulates B lymphocytes for production of antibodies. When stimulus from helper cells goes to B lymphocytes differentiated into two cells, plasma cells and memory cells. Plasma cells starts production of antibodies, while memory B cells stores memory of the immune attack, immune response. Means how the plasma cells making antibodies against particular pathogen, that episode memorized by memory B cells. Okay, now actually helper T cells receiving stimulus from dendritic cells. Dendritic cells are somewhat irregular, they have projections, and when any microbe entering inside the body, dendritic cells swallow them. Suppose this is a bacteria. When bacteria enters inside the cell, bacteria have a specific type of antigens. Then these antigens are here. Dendritic cell phagocytose these, swallow these bacteria, and their antigens are presented over outer surface of dendritic cells. These type of antigens, and this cell, dendritic cells, signals helper T cells about the infection and about the antigens, and helper T cells then stimulates B lymphocytes to produce that type of antibodies which are matching to specific antigens. And in this way, suppose this is the bacteria having antigen, this type of antigen, then plasma cells forming antibodies like this. The antibodies are like this, and these antibodies, Y-shaped antibodies, interact with the antigen of bacteria, and in this way now bacteria become inactivated, neutralized. And when antigen antibody complex, inactive complex is formed, then the macrophages or monocytes attracted, and they swallow them, engulf them and destroy them. In this way the immune response is carried out with the help of different cells, and in between different cells there is a signaling communication language, chemical communication occurs. Okay, in this way how the plasma cells forming antibodies of specific type, means specific antigen against which specific antibodies are formed. If antigen is different, antibodies are of different. Just for understanding, this is just for understanding. Okay, now about the second type. This is about the first type, helper T cells. Okay, now second type, killer T cells. Here there is a bacteria, any type of bacteria or virus. It has cell wall. Killer T cells producing a specific protein called porein, pore forming protein, porein. And when the pore forming protein coming in contact with the bacteria, then they making hole, pores on the outer surface of bacteria, and that is why our body fluid get entered and bacterial wall get damaged, and that is why bacteria get killed by killer T cell, by action of killer T cells, and that is why they are known as killer T cells. Now suppressor T cells. These suppressor T cells helps immune system to ignore our self tissues, means the different tissues are there in our body against which immune action not occurs. Means suppressor T cells suppress the immune system against our own body cells. It is called the function of suppressor T cells according to name. And then memory T cells performing the storage or memory function. What the action occurs, what is the immune response given by the different T lymphocytes, either helper or killer T lymphocytes, that immune response are memorized by memory T cells, and at next time it is useful for rapid control. Memory, because of the action of memory cells, as compared to first attack or first immune response, second immune response is very quick and strong because of just these memory cells. They are helpful in rapid control over the pathogens when they enter second time in our body. Now about B lymphocytes. Second type of cells, B lymphocytes, as we mentioned earlier, when the stimulus by helper T cell reaches to B lymphocytes, B lymphocyte differentiated into plasma cells and memory cells. Plasma cells starts antibody production at the rate of 2000 antibodies per second, while memory cells storing all entire immune response, which is helpful for next immune response and for a rapid encounter of pathogens if they enter again in second time. Okay, in this way, this is all about acquired or adaptive immunity. It is called specific because against specific microorganism specific antibodies are formed, and the antibodies formed against typhoid bacteria not useful against tuberculosis bacteria or other type of bacteria or other type of viruses. That is why it is called specific, because there is a specificity. Specific antibody locks with specific antigen. Okay, here the condition is very different. In innate immunity, it is for all types of microbes. Any type of microbe, any type of harmful organism, germ, when try to enter inside the body, then they must pass these barriers or these defense lines. First and second defense line means barriers. Okay, and it is non-specific for everyone, not for particular microorganism, particular pathogen. Okay, that is why it is called specific, and it is natural. It is a nature's gift to all invertebrates and vertebrates. Okay.